Eric Harris created a web page on his internet site entitled, "You Know What I Hate." You know what I hate? People who use the same word over and over again, like actually, or fuck you, or bitch. Read a fucking book or two. Increase your vocabulary, you fucking idiots. You know what I hate? Star Wars fans. Get a frickin' life, you boring dickheads. You know what I hate? When there's a group of assholes standing in the middle of a walkway. Get the fuck out of the way, or I'll bring a friggin' sawed-off shotgun to your house and blow your snotty-ass head off. Duane Fusilier is an FBI agent who led the investigation into the Columbine High School massacre. 24 hours after the tragedy, he was one of the first to examine what the killers had written. He interprets how they functioned.
Dylan I saw as primarily suicidal, hooking up with Eric Harris. So you had anger and homicidality on one side, and depression and suicidality and emotion on the other side coming together and led to a fatal friendship.
Could Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris's crime have been prevented? Before the tragedy, there were several alarming portents that no one detected. These were, at first, seemingly harmless incidents. One day, Brooks Brown had an appointment with Eric Harris to go to school with him. He was late. His mother recounts what happened.
Eric had thrown an ice chunk into the windshield and cracked the windshield. And I would say that's when things really took a turn for the worse. We called the police over that. The police came to the house. They went to the Harris's home. We did not file charges.
Eric's father, Wayne Harris, asked his son to go and apologize. At the time, Mr. Harris kept a notebook about his son, simply titled Eric. The 23 pages of the notebook form part of a selection of recently published documents. Concerning the broken windscreen incident, his father wrote, "Cracks in windshield. Believing Eric versus wife. Overreaction to minor incident."
Eric's dad and Eric never offered to pay for it, nor did he explained it away, that it was a mistake, that he didn't mean to do it, and that boys will be boys. The dad was upset that we had called the police.
A few weeks later, the whole neighborhood suspected Eric of having put glue into a number of car and house locks and setting fire to trees. Eric Harris denied it, but in his diary, he delighted in his deceit. "I lie a lot, almost constant, and to everybody, just to keep my own ass out of the water. I know that I hate liars, and I am one myself. Oh, fucking well." 2.5 years before the killings, another more serious incident had occurred. The Columbine computer system was hacked into by Dylan Klebold, Eric Harris, and 2 others. They stole a list of codes giving access to students' lockers. Their objective was revenge against one particular student.
And they put a threatening note in his locker saying, I think they might even kill him or something like that, to that effect.
The school decided to suspend all 4 students for 3 days. In his notebook, Eric's father again took his son's part. He wrote, "We feel victimized too. We don't want to be accused every time something happens. Eric is not at fault." Three months later, there was more trouble. Harris and Klebold were caught red-handed, stealing computer equipment from a vehicle. They were arrested by the police and sentenced to community service. They also had to write a letter of apology to the victim. Eric Harris wrote the letter. It was typed on his computer, and it was very polite. I am truly sorry for what I have done, and for any inconvenience I have caused you, your family, or your company. Respectfully, Eric Harris. But at the same time, he expressed rather different sentiments in his diary. One big fucking problem is people telling me what to fucking do, think, say, act, and everything else. FBI agent Duane Fusilier analyzes the two documents.
From his journal, at the same time he wrote that apology letter, and he says, if I'm free, how come I can't deprive a person of his possessions if he leaves him sitting in the front seat of his van, and that guy should be shot? I could see in this writing the anger and indignation. How dare authorities hold me responsible for breaking into that person's van? It's his fault. No guilt, no remorse, no internalization of these morals, that this is a wrong thing to do. When I saw particularly those two juxtaposed, written about the same incident, one publicly, one privately, that's when I started saying, this is a budding young psychopath here.
Items that appeared on Eric Harris's internet site were even more serious. The entries were discovered by Brooks Brown a year before the massacre. In them, Harris claimed to have made homemade bombs. Atlanta, Folis, Peltro, and Patsy are complete. For those of you who don't know what they are the first 4 true pipe bombs created entirely from scratch by the rebels, Reb and Vodka. Reb and Vodka were nom de guerre. The text ended with a sickeningly portentous threat. Now our only problem is to find the place that will be ground zero. On another page, Harris described his plans for the slaughter. I don't care if I live or die in the shootout. All I want to do is kill and injure as many of you pricks as I can, especially a few people like Brooks Brown. Eric Harris had fallen out with Brooks Brown following the windscreen incident. Extremely anxious about these death threats, his mother, Judy Brown, visited the sheriff's office to discuss them.
The writing was much more violent than it had ever been. Before it was jokes and vandalizing homes and getting back at people, but now it was way over the top. One detective said that he thought he had heard of Eric Harris, that Eric Harris had been in trouble. He went into the other room, he pulled something off the computer and said that there was an Eric Harris that had in fact been arrested for breaking into a van. So at that point he said, I've got the kid. And I said, do you need more information? And he said, I don't need it. I've got the kid. He seemed like he was on top of things when we were talking to him.
The very next day, Judy Brown ran into Harris in the shopping arcade.
I was in the grocery store and I saw Eric run in and he slapped a magazine down on the counter, and it was Shotgun magazine, and it scared me because I didn't know he was into guns. Now he's into guns. I was scared to death that he was going to shoot my son. And I wanted to make sure that Detective Hicks was doing his job. And I wanted to make sure that Eric didn't know that we had turned him in, because I didn't want to do anything to upset Eric. Eric was an injustice collector. He never let anything go. So I called Detective Hicks and I left a message, please call me, this kid is into guns. I tried to call him back several times and he would never return my call.